Let the journey of discovery begin. The gamma ray burst. There exists in the universe a type of invisible light, so powerful it could incinerate half a planet in seconds. If space had a doomsday weapon, this would be it. The gamma ray burst. This isn't a science fiction laser cannon or the secret power of some comic book villain. Gamma ray bursts, GRBs for short, are real, and they're terrifying. These explosions are among the most energetic events the universe has ever recorded. If one of them aimed its energy beam at Earth, the catastrophe would unfold so fast that nobody would have time to react. Gamma rays are supercharged packets of light. Unlike the warm glow of a nightlight or your phone flashlight, these rays carry enough energy to punch through concrete and even slice through the human body. They're not just intense, they're deadly. The most powerful gamma rays in the cosmos come from GRBs, which occur in the final death throes of a massive star. When such a star burns through its fuel, it collapses under its own gravity, sometimes becoming a black hole or exploding in a spectacular supernova. In rare cases, this collapse shoots out 2 jets of plasma from its poles, and if one of those jets is aimed directly at Earth, well, let's just say nobody's showing up to work on Monday. But just how powerful are these bursts? In only a few seconds, a GRB can release more energy than our sun will generate over its entire 10 billion year lifetime, seconds versus billions of years. The good news? GRBs are incredibly rare and highly directional. They only become a threat if Earth is directly in the line of fire and within a range of 200 light-years. Fortunately, no such burst currently appears to be aimed our way. Still, even distant GRBs can cause damage. Normally, Earth's atmosphere shields us from cosmic radiation, but a strong enough GRB could thin the ozone layer, exposing the planet to a flood of ultraviolet rays. Atmospheric chemistry would spiral out of balance, creating toxic smog and potentially triggering a new ice age. Some scientists believe a GRB might have played a role in the Ordovician extinction about 450 million years ago. And if you're wondering what it would feel like to be hit by one, think Chernobyl, but on a planetary scale. Gamma rays don't just burn skin. They break atomic bonds, scramble DNA, and cause cancer. You'd need walls of lead to stop them. Sunscreen won't help. A GRB could sterilize an entire planet, meaning every living thing on the surface could vanish in an instant. In 2022, Earth witnessed the most powerful GRB ever recorded. Scientists nicknamed it BOAT, short for brightest of all time. Luckily, the beam didn't strike us. But its blinding presence was a chilling reminder that the universe is not always a peaceful place. The X factor beneath the permafrost. The greatest threat to humanity may not be hiding in some laboratory or drifting through deep space. It could be frozen beneath our feet, locked in the earth for thousands of years. Within that frigid soil, ancient secrets are beginning to stir, and what lies in wait as the ice melts might completely alter the future of global pandemics. Scientists have given this chilling danger a name, the X factor. Permafrost may sound peaceful, but it's simply ground that has remained frozen for at least 2 consecutive years. In some parts of Siberia, it hasn't budged in over 650,000 years, a span of time long enough to hide the most terrifying things imaginable. Inside that frozen earth, scientists have discovered countless microscopic organisms, bacteria, viruses, and even tiny animals that can come back to life after thousands of years in hibernation. In one experiment, they successfully revived a 30,000-year-old giant virus. Luckily, it only targeted single-celled organisms. But if that virus could survive, what else might be waiting to awaken? Some of the microbes sealed in permafrost have incredibly resilient structures, like anthrax spores. In fact, it was these spores that triggered an anthrax outbreak in Siberia back in 2016, when the thawing corpse of a reindeer released the deadly bacteria into the open. But anthrax isn't the only concern. Scientists are most worried about viruses completely unknown to humankind, pathogens that could predate the evolution of our species. If they awaken, can the modern immune system handle them? What's even more troubling is that this layer of ice is melting 4 times faster than the global average. And it's not just ancient viruses that are lurking. There are other dangers rising to the surface too, including mercury, nuclear waste, obsolete pesticides, and radioactive dust left over from Cold War-era bomb tests. As global mining companies rush into the Arctic in search of rare earth metals, they're unknowingly drilling into what could be a biological time bomb. In our quest for technology, we may be waking prehistoric horrors, and all it takes is one infected worker boarding a plane. Before anyone even realizes what's happening, the pathogen could spread across the globe, just like what the world experienced with SARS and COVID-19. When that moment comes, what will humanity do? Will there even be time to act? Glowing snow. In the remote Arctic wilderness of Russia, A rare phenomenon recently stunned the scientific community: glowing snow. The discovery was made by male Narratin, the son of a molecular biologist. On a freezing night, while walking his 2 dogs along the White Sea coast, he noticed that every step he took caused the snow to light up with a brilliant blue glow. When he scooped up a handful of snow and squeezed it tight, the light flared even brighter. He immediately called his father, and together they brought a sample back to their lab. Under the microscope, the mystery was revealed. The snow was filled with tiny plankton, like creatures called copepods, microscopic crustaceans, found in both saltwater and freshwater. It wasn't the snow that was glowing, it was them, reacting to pressure or touch. Bioluminescent copepods are often seen lighting up shorelines with magical blue waves, but they've never been found in snow, especially not in the Arctic. This marked the first confirmed case of bioluminescence in snow on land. The unanswered question is how these marine creatures ended up in the snow in such a frigid region. Scientists are still searching for an explanation, and this glowing mystery continues to challenge our understanding of the natural world. The Whisperers of Eastern Europe, modern-day witches. In a quiet village on the eastern edge of Poland, where the fields stretch out like a massive woven tapestry, a woman stands silently, her hands hovering above a stranger's head. She whispers words older than the mountains themselves. No crystals, no incense, just flax, beeswax, prayers, and a power passed down through generations. This isn't a scene from The Witcher, this is a septuka, a true whisperer. In Poland, they're known as healers who pray illness away. Their magic is a blend of Eastern Orthodoxy, pre-Christian folk beliefs, and rituals strange enough to make modern doctors break a sweat. In the Podlasie region, one can witness hot wax being poured into cold water to read souls through wax patterns. Flames skim the tops of heads. Whispers drift across the scalp like a mystical barbershop therapy. At the heart of Zeptucha, magic is the spoken word. One such prayer goes like this: "Evil spirit, do not wake them. Do not crush their bones and flesh. Do not drain their blood." Part ancient poetry, part chilling plea, yet oddly comforting. And according to the locals, it works not through science, but through belief. Septucha believe their gift comes from God, and they never charge for their services. No insurance, no invoices. Just leave a few coins or a cookie in the nearest church. Their craft has existed since long before hospitals, diplomas, or health apps. Anthropologist Zuzana Rembeck explains that flax is central to these rituals. It represents disorder and illness. When it burns, the sickness is believed to vanish with it. But belief is the key, like Santa Claus. If you don't believe, you don't receive. Today, only a few septuka remain, mostly elderly women, holding on to memories filled with chants and candlelit altars. Some, like Paraskiwa Artemiuk or the legendary Mrs. Walla, have passed down their secrets, but most have not. Why? Because it doesn't pay. No business cards, no social media, and it's hard to compete with the steady paycheck of a supermarket cashier in a world dominated by hospitals. From Mesopotamia to the Celts to ancient Egypt, every great civilization once had its magic. But now, only the Whisperers of Poland, the Septuka, remain as the last living legacy of a magical world lost to time. And that, in itself, is extraordinary. Ukraine's ancient burial mound. In the quiet countryside of Ukraine, as bulldozers began to carve through the earth to make way for a new road, workers had no idea they were drawing close to one of the most unusual burial sites in all of Europe. What emerged was a massive burial mound over 5,500 years old, accompanied by a mysterious, prehistoric stone circle. Unlike other graves in the region, this mound was enormous, nearly 400 feet long and more than 20 feet high. The excavation team had to bring in heavy machinery just to peel back the topsoil and reach the archaeological remains hidden below. Inside the mound, archaeologists uncovered the remains of at least 24 individuals. This had once been a communal cemetery, used by Bronze Age villagers, ancient Scythian warriors, and even medieval people. But what truly stunned researchers was the stone circle measuring roughly 60 feet in diameter, meticulously arranged at the center of the mound. The circle, known as a crumble, remains a mystery. No one is certain whether the circle or the mound came first. But one thing is clear: the people who built it were likely nomadic tribes, who once roamed the lands that are now Ukraine. While the later burials may have been added centuries afterward, the site may have originally been a vast ceremonial complex, one that echoes the spiritual grandeur of Stonehenge. Though lacking the monumental stones of its British counterpart, the original scale of this Ukrainian site might have been even larger. It may have once served as a sacred gathering place for many different tribes and belief systems, a Roman bath beneath the sand. Along a windswept stretch of beach in Caños de Meca, Spain, a secret over 2,000 years old was quietly preserved by sand and time. Buried beneath the dunes, an ancient Roman bathhouse lay hidden untouched, perfectly preserved like a sealed letter from the past. This remarkable discovery was announced by archaeologists from the University of Cadiz. What they found wasn't just a Roman bath, but also an ancient grave nearby. The structure was identified as a therma, a public bath, where Romans once came to wash, exercise, relax, and engage in conversation about the affairs of life. Standing over 13 feet high, the bath's stone walls still retained their original shape, having rested silently beneath the sand for nearly 2 millennia. Even more astonishing, the site was right beneath the feet of modern tourists, who had unknowingly been strolling across a piece of Roman history. So far, archaeologists have only uncovered 2 rooms of the entire complex, but they estimate the bath once spanned more than a hectare. The Romans first took control of the region in the 2nd century BCE, and, as was their custom, quickly established public bathhouses. Not far to the south, researchers also discovered ancient salt pools and a burial site dating back 4,000 years. All of it preserved thanks to the immovable dunes of time. Inside the grave, 7 skeletons were found. But who they were and what culture they belonged to remains an unsolved mystery. Germany's oldest golden treasure. In the southwest of Germany, archaeologists have unearthed one of the most extraordinary finds in European history, a delicate spiral of gold, the oldest gold artifact ever discovered in Germany. Inside a Neolithic grave, the skeleton of a woman was found curled in a fetal position. There were no grave goods, nothing except a small golden ring, likely once used as a hair ornament. What stunned researchers wasn't just its age, but its origin. The gold appears to have come from Britain, transported across a vast and ancient trade network that existed thousands of years ago. Radiocarbon dating placed the woman's death between 1850 and 1700 BCE. The metal content of the ring, 20% silver, with traces of platinum and tin, suggests it was crafted from natural river gold, almost certainly from a river in the British Isles. This suggests that, as early as the 2nd millennium BCE, communities in ancient Britain were reaching far across Europe through trade. A small gold ring, yet a bridge between civilizations. A silent testimony that even in the earliest chapters of human history, the world was more connected than we might imagine. And in the heart of German soil, the memory of a noble woman and a journey across continents still lingers, quietly and eternally. The Headless Romans. While excavating 3 Roman-era cemeteries, nearly 2,000 years old in England, archaeologists uncovered a sight both chilling and mysterious. Amid the ancient graves, they discovered 17 decapitated skeletons, an unusually high and troubling number. The excavation team from the University of Cambridge uncovered 52 graves at a farm near the town of Somersham. Of those, 13 skeletons were found buried face down, and 17 were missing their heads, with skulls placed at their feet. Some were still positioned on their knees, as if they had been buried in the exact pose they held at the moment of execution. What's strange is that there were no signs of struggle on the bones, suggesting the victims didn't resist before death. Based on that, archaeologists theorize these were organized executions. The remote area had once been home to farmers who supplied grain and livestock to the Roman military. When the authorities were displeased, they may have ordered executions as a form of punishment and deterrence. While this theory remains unproven, it fits the broader historical context. In the final years of Roman rule in Britain, executions became increasingly common. As the empire weakened, chaos and violence spread across the region. The sacred stone, the moon, and the witch. Amid the desolate hills of Galicia, Spain, a strange stone juts out from the wilderness, as if the moon had once landed her celestial ship and forgotten it there. Locals call it Peña Malexa, a colossal prehistoric monolith that, according to legend, was raised by a powerful witch who held all the secrets of the world. Scientists have yet to explain its bizarre structure. Some believe it's aligned with lunar geometry, specifically the 19-year Metonic cycle. On the final year of that cycle, during the summer solstice, the full moon rises directly above the stone's crest, like a star stepping into the cosmic spotlight to applause from the heavens. But why would a mysterious woman build a monument to the moon? Galician folklore doesn't say. It only tells that she shaped the entire stone with her pinky finger. And wherever she may be now, her tiny finger remains raised, like she's toasting with a glass of fine wine. The day she lowers it, Peña Malexa will collapse, and the end of the world will begin. They call her Amura, a Galician witch, known for punishing the greedy and the wicked. Perhaps that's why, unlike other pagan sites in Europe that were later repurposed by Christian churches, Peña Malexa was never Christianized. There's no chapel, no cross. People feared the curse of that raised finger too much to defile it. Archaeologists believe the site was once a Celtic altar dedicated to a moon goddess and possibly used as a burial ground for thousands of years. It's a place so sacred that even the most devout followers of the new faith dared not disturb it. They understood if they awoke Amor's wrath, she would lower her finger, and all would end. If you ever find yourself in Galicia, don't just go to the beach. Seek out the moonstone. Stand beneath its ancient shadow. Look up at the sky. And if you hear whispers in the wind, or glimpse the silhouette of a golden-haired woman shimmering in the moonlight, don't stare too long. She may already be watching you. Dracorex. Dracorex is a newly identified species of dinosaur, but in the ancient world, it has existed for tens of millions of years. What makes it extraordinary is its uncanny resemblance to dragons from fairy tales. A long tail, powerful hind legs, a horned skull bristling with spikes, and a jagged jaw that looks like it could breathe fire. Despite its fearsome appearance, Dracorex wasn't a predator. It belonged to the Pachycephalosaur family, commonly known as bone-headed dinosaurs, and was herbivorous. This creature once roamed across Asia and North America during the late Cretaceous period, between 95 and 66 million years ago. As the newest member of the Pachycephalosaur family, Dracorex marks a significant milestone in paleontology. Renowned paleontologist Robert Bacher believes its existence proves that even in the final moments before the asteroid struck Earth, dinosaurs were still evolving, combining primitive features with advanced ones, like ornate skull spikes for defense. The killer black hole. Somewhere in the vast reaches of space, scientists have discovered a supermassive black hole with an insatiable appetite. Unlike ordinary black holes that quietly swallow matter, this one feeds in steady bursts like a cosmic engine driven by hunger. It resides in the galaxy GSN 069, home to a monstrous celestial being. Each day, it devours the equivalent of 12 moons 3 times per cycle, triggering colossal X-ray flares every 9 hours. These blasts of energy are powerful enough to annihilate everything nearby. Observations from the European Space Agency's XMM Newton telescope and NASA's Chandra Observatory show that the infalling matter heats to millions of degrees before vanishing into the black hole's core. Scientists believe the source of this activity may be the shredded remains of an unlucky star, torn apart layer by layer, absorbed piece by piece. Researcher Margherita Giustini says the X-ray pulses suggest the black hole is eating the star gradually. Meanwhile, Richard Saxton compares the scene to watching a monster 400,000 times heavier than the sun devour its prey in terrifying rhythm. The cause of these rhythmic flares remains a mystery. One theory suggests the energy builds up like pressure in a sealed pot, erupting once a limit is reached. Another blames gravitational instability, or debris, spiraling inward in layers. Whatever the reason, this rare phenomenon is helping scientists better understand how black holes grow and digest. This one is safely far from Earth, but its existence is a stark reminder that the universe harbors giants whose power defies imagination. 2 black holes becoming one. Scientists have just recorded one of the most terrifying events ever witnessed in the cosmos, the collision of 2 supermassive black holes. It's the closest pair to Earth ever discovered, currently in the process of merging into a single object of unimaginable size. The event is unfolding in galaxy NGC 7727, about 89 million light-years away. By tracking how gravity affects nearby stars, astronomers measured the mass of each black hole. Data from the European Southern Observatory's Very Large Telescope revealed the 2 titans are separated by just 1,600 light-years, a cosmic whisper apart, as if breathing into each other's faces. That tight proximity suggests that within 250 million years, they'll fuse into one devastating force. The larger black hole has a mass equal to 154 million suns, while the smaller weighs in at 6.3 million. These entities pose no danger to Earth, but their sheer power is beyond anything human minds can grasp. No spacecraft could get near them and survive the gravitational pull of these merging giants. Water on Mars. Astronomers have made a strange discovery on the red planet. Evidence now shows that liquid water once flowed on Mars as recently as 2 billion years ago, far more recent than scientists previously believed. Using data from NASA's Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, researchers identified chloride salt deposits, traces left behind by ancient Martian water. After analyzing dozens of satellite images, they determined that these deposits didn't form 3 billion years ago as once thought, but only about 2 billion years ago. This opens up the possibility that Mars sustained liquid water for much longer than expected, long enough, perhaps, for life to take hold. Still, we don't know what kind of life, if any, ever existed there or when it vanished, or where the evidence might lie. The discovery offers a glimmer of hope that water remained on Mars long enough to make life possible. Scientists now believe that beneath the planet's southern polar ice cap, a hidden underground lake still exists, its liquid water trapped in eternal darkness, waiting to be found. Dozens of new species discovered. Every year, dozens of new species are discovered. We may not stumble upon a new dinosaur every day, but thanks to modern technology, it happens far more often than most people think. In 2021 alone, scientists identified 42 previously unknown dinosaur species. That number is in line with the annual average of around 45 new species since 2003. According to National Geographic journalist Michael Greshko, we're living in a golden age of paleontology, an era where our understanding of prehistoric life is expanding at an unprecedented rate. Researcher Tom Holtz notes that more scientists are now working both in the field and in laboratories than ever before. New species are being uncovered not just through fresh fossil digs, but also by re-examining specimens that have been stored in museum vaults for decades. Fossils once grouped under a single classification like Iguanodon are now being split into multiple species based on subtle but significant differences. One of the most remarkable discoveries is Spiclipius shiporum, an armored dinosaur with massive spikes protruding from its ribcage. It lived in northern Morocco between 168 and 164 million years ago and is the oldest known member of the ankylosaur family. These heavily armored herbivores were equipped with clubbed tails, strong enough to fend off even the fiercest predators, perhaps even the mighty T-Rex. The Forgotten World. Inside a sinkhole. In 2022, an age when many believe the Earth has already been fully explored, a caving expedition in southern China stumbled upon a discovery that left them speechless. Hidden deep below the surface lay a colossal sinkhole, vast as a cathedral, where ancient life still clings to existence. This natural abyss drops more than 600 feet and holds over 5 million cubic meters of space, the equivalent of 2,000 Olympic swimming pools. At the bottom, an untouched primeval forest spreads out, its trees towering over 130 feet high, their lush green canopy blotting out the sky above. Scientists discovered previously unrecorded plant species and hinted at the possibility of ancient animals and fossil lifeforms hiding below. Descending into the sinkhole felt like stepping into a parallel world, one where prehistoric life had never left. Located in Guangxi, a region famed for its limestone karsts and cave systems, the discovery proves that even today, Earth still guards mysteries. We've yet to unravel places where ancient ecosystems may still be waiting to be found. The hidden stargate on Earth. High in the remote mountains of Peru, along a windswept stone path, stands a massive rock portal carved directly into a sheer cliff face. There's no handle, no hinges, no welcome mat, just a flat wall of stone called Amaru Muru, a doorway leading to nowhere. At least, for those who've forgotten how to open it. The ancient knowledge that once unlocked this gate has long since been lost to time, according to legend. This isn't merely a slab of stone, it's a stargate, a sacred passageway used by gods to cross between dimensions. Whether known as the Gate of the Gods or Ayumar's Threshold, its purpose remains the same, to guide one chosen soul into another world. While modern historians have long dismissed the idea of interdimensional portals, new scientific discoveries are beginning to reopen doors, once considered pure myth realities, that ancient people may have understood far better than we do today. Researchers like Freddie Silva believe that ancient civilizations from Stonehenge to Mount Shasta quietly mapped the Earth's most powerful energy points. In these sacred locations, where the veil between dimensions wears thin, a single incantation could pierce the fabric of reality. Stone circles, hollowed rock gates, forgotten temples from Ayumara to Tikal, from Newgrange to the crumbling domes of Portugal, all lie atop ley lines, the ancient world's energetic grid. These weren't just holy places, they were launch pads to the cosmos. Graham Hancock, a researcher of ancient spiritual travel, spent years studying the ceremonies involving ayahuasca, a sacred Amazonian brew, said to expand consciousness and allow contact with spirits, multidimensional entities, and long-buried memories. He asked a provocative question. What if what people see under ayahuasca isn't an illusion? What if sacred sites truly produce an energy field? And what if only those in a heightened state of awareness can pass through the gates? According to the legend of Amaru Muru, an Incan priest fleeing Spanish invaders carried with him a sacred golden disc. He placed it at the center of the stone doorway, and the gate lit up. A passage opened, leading into the realm of the gods. Amaru stepped through and was never seen again, the gate sealed behind him forever. Today, many visitors report strange sensations when touching the center of the stone, vibrations, waves of heat, even out-of-body experiences. Could these be remnants of a dormant energy, still humming inside the stargate? In 2012, physicist Jack Scudder of the University of Iowa stunned the scientific world by announcing the discovery of real space portals. These are invisible energy tunnels known as X-points, where Earth's magnetic field connects with the sun's, creating temporary gateways for subatomic particles. NASA quickly launched the magnetospheric multiscale mission to investigate. The results were astonishing. These portals can open and close in seconds, unleashing powerful streams of charged particles and, in some cases, triggering dazzling auroras. Though only microscopic particles can pass through for now, this was the first proof that stargates are real and that we might one day build them. So the question still echoes: what did our ancestors know that we're only beginning to rediscover? And how did that knowledge disappear? The perfect dinosaur embryo. Millions of years ago, in what is now the city of Guangzhou in southern China, a dinosaur egg was buried in a sudden mudslide. The baby inside didn't survive, but the rapid burial protected it from scavengers and erosion. In 2000, scientists uncovered the fossil. But it wasn't until recently that they examined it in detail. What they found was the most perfectly preserved dinosaur embryo ever discovered. They named it Baby Yingliang. This tiny creature was curled into a posture, strikingly similar to how modern birds tuck themselves just before hatching. The discovery strengthens the evolutionary link between dinosaurs and birds, and suggests that behavior seen in birds today may have originated with their dinosaur ancestors. According to Dr. Fion Waisum Ma, the embryo belonged to a toothless dinosaur group called oviraptorosaurs, or egg thieves. It had reached a length of about 10.6 inches and was just days away from hatching when it died. Oviraptorosaurs once roamed widely across Asia and North America during the late Cretaceous period, around 166 million years ago. Using advanced scanning technology, scientists now plan to reconstruct the full skeleton of Baby Yingliang, which is still partially encased in rock. World War I's forgotten training tunnels. Beneath the Salisbury Plain in England, famous for its ancient monument, Stonehenge archaeologists have uncovered a forgotten system of tunnels from World War I. Hidden below a military base, these tunnels once served as a training ground for British engineers in 1914. Here, they practiced digging trenches, building underground bunkers, and simulating how to plant explosives beneath enemy lines, skills that would later be used on real battlefields. During a survey for new construction, the excavation team unearthed grenades, soldier-carved graffiti, and even unopened ration tins. According to archaeologist Martin Brown, this is the largest investigation ever conducted into a World War I training trench system. The site had been buried for a century, either deliberately sealed off or left to vanish beneath overgrown fields. The names carved into the tunnel walls still remain a haunting reminder of a generation that once trained in darkness for a war that would engulf the world. The tomb of Merlin, the wizard. In legend, he is a long-bearded old man with a flowing robe, a staff in hand, and a mouth full of cryptic prophecy, a figure as mystical as he is familiar. Not Gandalf, but Merlin, the legendary wizard of King Arthur's court, said to be a time traveler and the chaotic forefather of Dumbledore himself. For centuries, the name Merlin has been relegated to myth, just a tale, no more real than the mists of epic poetry. But what if Merlin truly existed? And what if his real story is far darker than the magical fables we've been told? In the shadowy village of Drumelzier, by the River Tweed in Scotland, a team of archaeologists, led by Ronan Tullis, uncovered something strange. They were following the clues left in a medieval manuscript titled Vita Merlini Sylvestris, which claimed Merlin died and was buried there in the 6th or 7th century CE. Strangely enough, at the exact location described in the manuscript, they found a hollow in the earth shaped like a grave. The area showed evidence of habitation from the Dark Ages, aligning perfectly with the time period when Merlin was said to have lived and muttered his mad prophecies. According to the ancient text, Merlin was a tragic figure, a man slowly descending into madness, whispering prophecies no one could understand. In the end, he was imprisoned by a tyrant, killed, and buried on the riverbank like a troublesome vagabond. Though Tullis admits there isn't enough evidence to prove Merlin's existence, the archaeological findings suggest the story originated in Drumelzier, not from the imagination of wandering minstrels. Locals have whispered about Merlin for hundreds of years, but now, with the dating of the site, the grave structure, and its uncanny match to the timeline of legend, hope is rekindled that behind the myth, there was once a man and a fate. The strange tale. 3 years ago, at Cerro Guido, a paleontological site more than 1,700 miles south of Santiago, Chile scientists uncovered the fossil of a newly described dinosaur species named Stegoros elangasan. This plant eater roamed South America between 75 and 71 million years ago, stretching nearly 6.5 feet long and weighing about 330 pounds. At first, the team thought it belonged to a known species, but when they examined its tail, something unusual stood out. Its structure didn't match any armored dinosaur ever seen before. The tail of Stegoros was covered in small bony plates called osteoderms, arranged in a wide, fan-like shape resembling a giant fern leaf. According to new research, the fossil may represent an entirely new branch of armored dinosaurs, one never before recorded in the southern hemisphere. Team member Sergio Soto noted that while scientists aren't sure why the tail evolved in this way, armored dinosaurs often developed unique defensive traits independently. The discovery also supports the theory that South America and Antarctica were once connected, as two closely related species were found in the same region. The WOW signal. On the night of August 15, 1977, during the SETI project, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, a strange signal from deep space was detected by a radio telescope. The signal, now famously known as the WOW signal, appeared only once and was never detected again. Its origin remains one of the great unresolved mysteries of modern astronomy. Many believe it came from an alien spacecraft passing through the galaxy, thousands of light years from Earth. Recently, astronomer Alberto Caballero began searching for sun-like stars within the Sagittarius constellation. He hypothesized that if the signal came from intelligent life, it may have originated near a star almost identical to our own. Caballero identified one such interstellar object with nearly identical temperature, diameter, and brightness to the Sun, about 1,800 light-years away. Though no alien life has been discovered and the true source of the signal remains unknown, scientists now have a clearer target for future investigations: the mysterious clay tablets of ancient geometry. Roughly 3,700 years ago, deep within the heart of Babylon's glittering civilization, a clay tablet was created, one that carried a secret far ahead of its time. It's the oldest known cadastral map in human history, a land survey document showing how ancient people used geometry to mark property boundaries. Etched into the tablet known as Psi, 4, 2, 7 are straight lines and triangles, so precise they baffle modern scholars. It proves that the Babylonians had mastered right angles and geometric principles long before Pythagoras famously codified them more than a millennium later. But here lies the puzzle. This knowledge vanished with Babylon's decline. It wasn't passed to later civilizations and had to be rediscovered centuries afterward. Where did such understanding come from, and why did it disappear? The forgotten Oxford College. Recent excavations in Oxford have uncovered the foundations of a lost medieval college, one that vanished from history in the mid-16th century. Known as St. Mary's College, it was founded in 1435. Yet within a century, it had fallen into disrepair and faded into obscurity. The college disappeared from historical records and was believed to have been destroyed entirely. Only now have archaeologists from Oxford Archaeology uncovered its limestone foundation near the city center, a site continuously inhabited since the 11th century. St. Mary's was built around the same time as Lincoln and Magdalen colleges. In the 15th century, colleges often combined education with religious life, reserved for devout scholars. Construction progressed slowly, and it wasn't until the early 1500s that the college finally received enough funding to function as a full academic institution. By the 1530s, St. Mary's boasted a 2-story library, a chapel, and a private kitchen. But after 1535, the school closed its doors. Just 5 years later, it was abandoned, left to collapse, and scavenged for building materials, with many of its stones repurposed for nearby structures, including a church tower. 6 centuries passed. The ruins were discovered when archaeologists excavated the area in preparation for a new dormitory for Brasenose College. Though long buried, the land continues its mission of education. Sandia Cave, a smudge in ancient history. Just outside the town of Bernalillo, New Mexico, tucked into the cliffs of Cibola National Forest, lies a small cave hidden in silence. This is Sandia Cave, once hailed as the key to unlocking the origins of humanity in North America. Discovered in the 1930s, its floor was blanketed in red dust, its walls etched with ancient markings, yet otherwise empty. Designated a National Historic Site in the 1960s, the cave can only be reached via treacherous footpaths and climbing ropes. For a brief moment, Sandia Cave was the darling of archaeology. In 1934, Frank Hibben, a professor from the University of New Mexico, excavated the site and found artifacts linked to the Folsom culture, then thought to be the oldest in the Americas. But Hibben went further. He claimed to have discovered tools from a wholly different group, what he called the Sandia Man. His bold assertion that humans lived here 25,000 years ago. When Time magazine picked up the story, Hibben became a star, but fame is fleeting. By the 1960s, scholars grew skeptical. And in 1995, journalist Douglas Preston revealed the truth. Frank Hibben had planted artifacts in the cave. He had fabricated an entire civilization to make a name for himself. By the 2000s, Hibben's name had been erased from textbooks. Sandia Man became a discarded legend. Still, the cave remains a fascinating sight, not as ancient as once believed, but still significant. Sometimes, the greatest mysteries don't lie beneath the earth, but within human ambition. Too much salt. A pinch of salt can make a meal delicious. But just a pinch, because too much of it turns everything into a disaster. And perhaps, the true threat to humanity's future isn't an asteroid or a rogue artificial intelligence. It might actually be something sitting quietly in the kitchen, a simple salt shaker. Salt pollution is a silent monster that humanity has ignored for far too long. The same salt we sprinkle on our food is slowly infiltrating rivers, lakes, soil, and even the air. According to a study published in Nature Reviews, Earth and Environment, human activity has introduced a staggering amount of salt into ecosystems over the past 50 years, into places that were never meant to handle salinity. Dr. Sujay Kaushal, the geologist behind the study, warns that this is no small issue. Salt showing up where it doesn't belong disrupts everything from drinking water supplies to agricultural land, and the problem is only getting worse. But how did it get to this point? The biggest culprit is something seemingly harmless: road salt. In the United States, nearly half of all salt used between 2013 and 2017 was poured onto roads to melt winter ice. Snowplows spraying salt may help keep highways clear, but that salt doesn't vanish when the snow melts. It seeps into the ground, runs off into streams, kills aquatic life, and corrodes infrastructure. In Flint, Michigan, during the infamous water crisis, excess salt corroded old pipes, allowing lead to leach into the city's drinking water. Here's the irony. Although 75% of Earth's surface is covered in water, only 3% of it is fresh, and most of that is locked away in glaciers and mountain snowpacks. As the planet warms and those frozen reserves begin to melt, our long-term freshwater supply becomes increasingly uncertain. Combine that with rising salt pollution, and the looming threat of a global freshwater shortage becomes clearer than ever. Without freshwater, life cannot continue. So the question remains, are we ready to confront this sleeping monster, or will we keep pouring salt into the very wounds we've inflicted on ourselves? What is a supervolcano? Long ago, more than 2 million years in the past, the land we now know as Yellowstone National Park witnessed a chain of terrifying disasters. This is where the story of a supervolcano begins. Of the 3 largest eruptions ever recorded at this site, the first is known as the Huckleberry Ridge eruption. It took place 2.1 million years ago and unleashed an almost unimaginable volume of volcanic material, 588 cubic miles. To put that into perspective, that much ash and rock would be enough to bury the entire state of Texas under nearly 5 feet of debris. The eruptions that followed were no less catastrophic. The Mesa Falls eruption occurred around 1.3 million years ago, and the most recent, called the Lava Creek eruption, happened approximately 631,000 years ago. It was this last eruption that carved out a massive caldera, a gaping scar now hidden beneath the surface of the park. And then, time marched on. The pressure from the searing magma deep underground has continued to build. One day, it could burst through the crust above and erupt once again, spewing ash, rock, and toxic gases into the sky. Scientists estimate that if such an event were to happen today, as many as 90,000 people could die in the initial blast. The volcanic ash could travel over 1,000 miles, blanketing large swaths of the United States in layers up to 10 feet thick. Roads would be impassable, airports would shut down, emergency services would be unable to reach the disaster zone. But all of that still wouldn't be the worst of it. When a volcano releases sulfuric gas into the atmosphere, it creates a dense veil that blocks sunlight, plunging the world into a period of darkness known as a volcanic winter. It's happened before. In the year 535 CE, a similar event caused a global climate collapse. Temperatures plummeted, crops failed, famine swept across continents. Uruk. Uruk was one of the most important cities of ancient Mesopotamia. Founded by King Enmerkar around 4500 BCE, it was located in Sumer, now modern-day Iraq. Uruk is renowned for its legendary king Gilgamesh, who sought immortality. But the city is also famous for a series of firsts in the history of human civilization. Uruk is considered the first true city ever built, although not as old as Baalbek. It was the first city to invent seals for marking property and signing documents. Here, the first ziggurat, a type of ancient stepped pyramid, was built during the 3rd millennium BCE, topped with a temple dedicated to the gods. Many historians believe that the ziggurat of Uruk inspired the Tower of Babel mentioned in the Bible. Uruk was inhabited for 4,800 years. For reasons still unknown, this once symbolic city of humanity was abandoned in 300 CE and forgotten until British archaeologists rediscovered it in 1853. The wheel. The ancient Sumerians were the inventors of the wheel, but not in the way you might think. They did not initially create it for chariots. Instead, they first invented the potter's wheel, paving the way for the development of wheels for transportation later on. The concept of the wheel first appeared around 3500 BCE, when the Sumerians sought to optimize pottery production. They invented the potter's wheel, a hardened clay disc that could spin on an axis, allowing potters to shape wet clay into uniform vessels, such as jars and bowls. Later, this idea evolved. They discovered that cutting wood into round sections, which they knew could roll heavy objects, and placing a sturdy axle through the center made moving loads far easier. Through experimentation, they invented the first wooden wheel and axle assembly. Eventually, they combined these wooden wheels with sled-like platforms, creating the world's first carts. The secret of the Djed symbol. Long before the first pyramids rose from the desert and the pharaohs began to establish their power along the Nile, Egypt was already the cradle of a radiant civilization, one that harbored the faded memories of a forgotten age. That age didn't just mark the birth of sacred rituals and divine symbols, but may also hint at a time when humanity once possessed knowledge far beyond what we now comprehend. Hidden deep within funerary temples, among intricate memorial structures and mysterious religious motifs, 3 recurring symbols appear throughout ancient Egyptian art and ceremony: the Ankh, the Djed, and the Waz. These are often depicted together, forming the Waz scepter, a representation of the authority to rule over life and death. The Ankh is perhaps the most easily recognized symbol, even by modern people who may not know its name, a cross with a looped handle, resembling a key of life. It signifies eternal existence and was once adopted by early Egyptian Christians as a sign of faith in the afterlife and a divine savior. The Waz takes the shape of a staff with a curved top, symbolizing power and dominion. But of the 3, the Djed remains the most mysterious. This symbol, shaped like a column with stacked horizontal bars, represents stability, cosmic order, and the sacred spine of Osiris, the lord of the afterlife. In Egypt's oldest religious texts, the Djed appears so frequently and prominently that some scholars believe it may have been a foundational element of the earliest belief systems. What makes the Djed particularly remarkable is its age. The symbol was carved into the burial pyramid of Pharaoh Djer at Saqqara, considered Egypt's first pyramid, and estimated to be over 4,600 years old. Its presence in such an ancient structure suggests that the Djed may have existed even before the pharaohs, perhaps dating back to a time when Egypt had yet to take form. The original meaning and origins of the Djed remain an unsolved mystery. Some theories suggest it was a celestial pillar supporting the heavens, or perhaps a symbol connected to gods even older than Osiris, such as Seker or Ptah, key figures in pre-dynastic Egyptian religion. It wasn't until the New Kingdom period that the Djed began appearing alongside the Ankh and was fully associated with Osiris, becoming his sacred spinal column, an emblem of resurrection from death. As researchers delve deeper into Egyptian culture, they realize the Djed is more than a mythological motif. It appears everywhere from the staff of Thoth to the iconography of Khonsu, the moon god, and throughout numerous ceremonial reliefs. What's even stranger is that when modern scholars closely examine the shape of the Djed, it doesn't resemble any known architecture from Egypt, Greece, or Rome. Instead, it looks strikingly similar to a high-voltage electrical insulator, an oddly modern piece of technology. That led to a bold theory. What if the Djed wasn't just the spinal column of Osiris, but a remnant of ancient memory, a memory of a lost civilization? And if that were true, that civilization might very well have been Atlantis, the legendary kingdom buried in myth. Atlantis is often invoked when people speak of knowledge beyond time, advanced machinery, electronic devices, and scientific understanding, far surpassing anything known until the 21st century. Perhaps the creators of the Djed weren't only speaking of gods, perhaps they were leaving behind a message that there once existed a world where people communicated through symbols, and where those symbols were technology. Shape-shifting monkeys in ancient Indian mythology. In the mythological lore of Asia, there are strange creatures endowed with power far beyond human limits. In ancient India, legends tell of a semi-human, semi-monkey race called the Vanara Intelligent Warriors, created by the god Brahma to battle a demonic species known as the Rakshasa. The Vanara looked nearly human but had the ability to transform into monkeys in the blink of an eye. Once transformed, their bodies would grow large, and their tails could lift a grown man or strike like a weapon. Even in their monkey forms, they could speak fluent human language. The Rakshasa were even more terrifying. They appear in Hindu, Islamic, Buddhist, and Jain mythology alike. With claws, fangs, glowing red eyes, and a sharp sense of smell, Rakshasas were bloodthirsty demons that could fly, shapeshift, and spread horror through the night. Many researchers believe that the image of the Rakshasa may have inspired the earliest concepts of the vampire in Western culture. Their ability to vanish in mist, soar through the skies, and transform into animals are traits that pass down through centuries, from India's jungles to Europe's castles. According to the legends, the Vanara allied with other kingdoms to wage a mythical war against the Rakshasa horde. After their victory, the monkey warriors retreated into the misty forest of Tungareshwar, vanishing from history. It's believed they may still dwell there, hidden among the fog-shrouded trees, though no one has ever truly seen them. The Black Death. In all of human history, no catastrophe has ever matched the horror of the Black Death. It wasn't just a curse, it was the worst nightmare ever unleashed upon mankind. The bubonic plague swept across Europe, Asia, and North Africa for more than 200 years, from 1346 to 1553, and wiped out around 60% of the world's population. To put that in perspective, if something similar happened today, it would mean nearly 4 billion people would disappear. Those who lived through it may have believed the end times had arrived, that they were enduring a biblical curse. No civilization escaped the scythe of death. And yet, humanity survived. The plague passed, and life continued. It took nearly 5 centuries for scientists to trace the first patient, the person who unknowingly ignited the pandemic. Clues led to Issyk Kul in present-day Kurdistan, once a major stop along the 14th century Silk Road. There, archaeologists discovered a sudden spike in graves during the years 1338 and 1339, 7 years before the full outbreak. It seems this was ground zero for a disaster that would engulf the globe. The material of Atlantis. The search for the lost city of Atlantis, a symbol of a forgotten civilization, may finally be approaching a turning point. In recent years, at least 5 separate archaeological discoveries have stunned researchers, each one suggesting that Atlantis might have been real. Amid endless debate and doubt, one underwater find has drawn particular attention, like a faint beam of light shining into the ancient past. A sunken ship, lying undisturbed for more than 2,600 years off the coast of Sicily, has revealed secrets never before known. Within its decaying remains, archaeologists discovered dozens of strange red metal ingots, not gold, not silver, but a mysterious alloy once described in ancient Greek mythology as a substance unique to Atlantis. These radiant red bars, unlike anything known today, were called by their legendary name, orichalcum. According to ancient texts, especially those of Plato, orichalcum was a luminous metal that bathed the city of Atlantis in glowing red light. He wrote that orichalcum was second only to gold in value and could only be mined in Atlantis itself, a glorious city said to have sunk beneath the waves around 9,600 BCE. But if Atlantis vanished, then where did these metal bars come from? Some bold theories have emerged. One suggests that Atlantis wasn't destroyed, but instead left Earth altogether, a mobile city that now floats in space. Another claims the Atlanteans were an extraterrestrial race who visited Earth temporarily, and when war or chaos erupted, they simply departed. A third theory proposes that Atlantis perished in a global nuclear catastrophe, triggering tsunamis, earthquakes, and landscape shifts that buried its remains beneath mountains. Back at the wreck off Sicily, the underwater archaeology team recovered a total of 39 ingots of orichalcum. Professor Sebastiano Tusa suggested the ship may have sailed from the city of Gela in southern Sicily, transporting the alloy to trade with ancient Greek regions, but a violent storm overtook the vessel before it reached port. Based on analysis, the sinking likely occurred in the early 6th century BCE. The greatest mystery lies in the fact that although experts can determine the alloy's composition, no one can trace its true origin. According to modern analysis, orichalcum is a type of copper alloy created through carburizing, melting copper, zinc, and carbon together. While this technique wasn't far beyond ancient metallurgy, its presence near an area suspected to be Atlantis raises the question, is this a relic of lost technology? Many scientists believe that while the ingots may not have come directly from Atlantis, they could be the last surviving traces of a lost civilization, a fading memory of ancient engineering buried beneath the sea. Like the faint glow of an oil lamp in the dark corridors of history, these red metals are telling a story still unfinished, a forgotten chapter waiting for humanity to write its end. When did archaeology begin? Museums weren't a modern invention. Even in ancient times, people felt the need to preserve and display objects older than themselves. Located in the city of Enigma, Nana's collection wasn't random. It consisted of carefully chosen artifacts dating from 2100 BCE to 600 BCE. These included statues, ceremonial mace heads, and boundary stones, all clearly labeled with multilingual inscriptions, including Sumerian. Why did Enigma Nana collect these relics? Simply because she loved the past, just like we do today. Her father, King Nabonidus, is considered the world's first archaeologist due to his deep fascination with history. He personally led excavations, uncovered lost texts, and many of the items in Enigma, Nana's museum, came from his discoveries. You could say that their family had archaeology in their blood. The labels on the artifacts weren't just decorative. They were early examples of metadata providing key details about each object, much like modern museum displays. This suggests that Enigma Nana may have used the collection for educational purposes, not just personal curiosity. Using texts left by earlier priestesses, she revived rituals from 800 years earlier and reopened a training school for young temple women. In doing so, she didn't just preserve history, she passed it on. In the Neo-Babylonian era, a passion for the past became central to kingship. Nabonidus didn't just focus on archaeology, he restored ancient religious traditions tied to the moon god Sin. When Enigma Nana was appointed, her religious office and its rituals had nearly been forgotten. Thanks to records she recovered from the time of Nebuchadnezzar I, she was able to bring many of them back to life. The king was reviving a tradition broken for over 1,000 years, bringing history back into the present. Sadly, the city of and its museum didn't last forever. Around 500 BCE, the city was abandoned. No one knows how many priceless texts and artifacts were lost with it. The Hanging Gardens of Babylon. If one had to choose the greatest achievement of the Babylonians, it would undoubtedly be the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, even though no trace of it remains today. These gardens are believed to have been built by King Nebuchadnezzar II, the most celebrated ruler in Babylonian history, who reigned from 605 to 562 BCE. However, the Hanging Gardens have always been surrounded by controversy. Some scholars don't believe they ever existed. Others argue that the gardens weren't Babylonian at all, but Assyrian. The problem lies in the lack of solid archaeological evidence. Everything we know comes from ancient written accounts. To complicate things further, the city of Babylon was once controlled by both Babylonians and Assyrians, making its history even harder to untangle. So what exactly were the Hanging Gardens of Babylon? According to ancient descriptions, they were among the most beautiful gardens the world had ever seen, resembling a step pyramid draped in lush greenery and blooming flowers. The structure featured stone terraces, colossal trees, vibrant blossoms in every direction, and even an amphitheater rising over 60 feet into the air. If it truly existed, this might have been the grandest botanical creation in human history. The ancient sailboat. In ancient Mesopotamia, a critical invention emerged out of human ingenuity and necessity: the sailboat. Around 5,000 years ago, the unique geography of the region, with 2 major rivers, the Euphrates and the Tigris, pushed the early civilizations of Sumer and Assyria to develop new ways to cross rivers and trade. The first boats were very simple wooden vessels, capable of moving downstream or upstream, but not effectively across the river. Eventually, inventors realized that wind could be harnessed to push a larger boat. In the beginning, however, they didn't know how to control the sail's direction to make full use of the wind. Instead, they attached a square piece of cloth and simply went wherever the wind carried them, and the boats couldn't hold much cargo. Still, these primitive sailboats helped propel Mesopotamian civilization to become the most powerful empire of its time. The invention was later adopted and improved upon by nearly every other society on Earth. Anunnaki, Atlantis, and the mystery of hybrid creation. Many ancient cultures, separated by vast distances in both space and time, tell stories of intelligent beings, with features somewhere between man and monkey. A surprising common thread appears in everything from Mesopotamian carvings to Hindu mythology, humanoid creatures created to fulfill a grand purpose. One long-standing theory suggests that when the Anunnaki, an advanced extraterrestrial race, arrived on Earth hundreds of thousands of years ago, they found nothing but wild beasts and dying dinosaurs. They hadn't come to study the planet, they came to mine the precious metals hidden deep underground. But since they didn't want to labor themselves, they decided to create a workforce. Using the available biological material, they engineered a new species, neither fully simian nor entirely divine. The Vanara of Hindu myth may have been the result of this process. The parallels between mythology and ancient records have led some researchers to ask, are these all retellings of the same story, just in different languages? In the Malay language, the word raksasa means giant, an eerie match for the biblical term Nephilim. If the Vanara were genetically engineered beings, then the Rakshasa might have been a failed version, a giant hybrid species that spun out of control and had to be destroyed. What once seemed like separate legends now begin to align like puzzle pieces from the same picture. The beginning of humanity, crafted by a superior intelligence, and the consequences of experiments that pushed past natural limits. Ancient ruins in Bolivia, high in the cold altiplano of the Andes, lies a forgotten city veiled in mist, Tiwanaku. Its massive stones, puzzle-like walls, and mortarless foundations remain scattered like evidence of a civilization far ahead of its time. Modern archaeologists still don't understand how the Tiwanaku people were able to transport, shape, and fit these hundreds-ton stones with such precision. Data suggests the city was built around 1,900 years ago when the Roman Empire ruled Europe. Tiwanaku flourished spectacularly, peaking in the 8th century, then suddenly collapsed. By the year 1000, nearly the entire population had vanished. Some theories blame an unusually dry climate. Others point to disease or war. But one possibility is whispered more quietly: a flood. Not the ancient flood of myth, but a devastating surge of water roughly 1,000 years ago. It struck without warning, sweeping the people away, leaving behind unfinished walls and half-carved stones. If true, then history may have seen more than one cataclysmic flood. The Sumerian king list. Some secrets from humanity's past lie buried so deeply that only fragments remain in official history. Among them is an ominous artifact known as the Sumerian King List, a stone-engraved document detailing 241,000 years of kingship across Sumer's ancient city-states. Sumer is considered the first cradle of civilization. Carved into a massive stone prism and covered in dense cuneiform script, the King List isn't something you'd casually find in a library. It is a living historical relic, dating to the Old Babylonian period, around 1830 to 1531 BCE. Scholars were stunned by its detail. The list is divided into sections, each naming the kings of a particular dynasty or city. The most shocking part is at the very beginning. The first line reads, "After kingship descended from heaven, kingship was first established in Eridu." For those who believe in the ancient astronaut theory, this is proof that human authority originated from beings who came from the sky, the mysterious Anunnaki. The first named king is Alulim, said to have ruled for 28,800 years. He is followed by others, each reigning between 18,000 and 43,000 years. Dynasty after dynasty flows by in unbelievable numbers until the words suddenly appear. Then the flood swept over. The Great Flood ended the era of immortal kings. After the disaster, the list continues with familiar names from Mesopotamian mythology. 23 kings are listed in the post-flood era, ruling for a total of more than 24,000 years, each living from 300 to 1,500 years. While still beyond modern human lifespans, these reigns are a marked decline from their predecessors. Among those names is a familiar one, Gilgamesh, the heroic king of Uruk, said to have ruled for 126 years and later became the focus of one of history's greatest epics. But after him, reigns shortened rapidly. His son ruled only 30 years. His grandson less than 15. The list goes on, names echoing from an era long past. Some kings ruled for 300 years, others for less than 100. Clearly, something had changed, a silent loss that stripped the ancient kings of their near immortality. Modern scholars believe that many of the kings on the list may never have existed, or if they did, they were hybrids, a blend of human and something else. According to one theory, the earliest kings were extraterrestrials, followed by hybrids, and finally by fully human rulers. When the name Sargon of Akkad, founder of the Akkadian Empire around 2270 BCE, appears in the list, everything suddenly becomes normal. From that point on, no king reigns for millennia. The numbers drop into a range we can understand. Though the list accuracy is widely debated, the Sumerian king list remains one of the most valuable sources for understanding Mesopotamian prehistory. It doesn't just outline an ancient line of power, it reveals a deep belief in divine kingship, where rulers were more than men. They were vessels of strength from the heavens above. The genetic curse of the Neanderthals. In the bloodline of modern humans, many genes from our Neanderthal ancestors still remain. Unfortunately, some people seem to have been cursed with a particular gene variant that makes their cells more susceptible to coronavirus infection, causing the illness to become far more severe. This discovery only emerged during the COVID-19 pandemic, when researchers found that an ancient gene, passed down over hundreds of thousands of years, could make certain individuals more vulnerable to the virus. Many believe that being born with genes for red hair or baldness is unfortunate, but those traits pale in comparison to the Neanderthal variant that compromises immune defenses. According to scientists, a small but significant portion of the population carries this Neanderthal gene variant, which may double or even quadruple the risk of severe complications from COVID-19. The root of the problem lies in an enzyme called DPP4, a protein that allows the coronavirus to latch onto human cells. For those carrying the Neanderthal version of DPP4, the virus gains an additional side door to invade, dramatically increasing the severity of infection. Sadly, there is currently no inexpensive way for people to test and determine the percentage of Neanderthal DNA in their bodies. While some are cursed with a harmful variant, others are fortunate to carry a Neanderthal-derived version that actually helps them fight COVID-19 more effectively. The Curse of Cyprus. In 2008, archaeologists excavated a lead tablet on the southern coast of Cyprus, inscribed with a bizarre curse dating back to the 7th century BCE from the ancient kingdom of Amathus. This was not a curse aimed at destroying an entire civilization, but rather targeted at a single man, someone who had clearly provoked extreme anger. The curse inscribed on the tablet was simple: "May your male organs suffer pain during intercourse." The tablet also depicted a man holding an hourglass, as if to warn that the cursed individual's time was running out. According to archaeologist Pierre Aubert of the Athens School of Archaeology, this is clear evidence of ancient witchcraft or magical practices. What makes it even more remarkable is that by the 7th century, Christianity had already taken root in Amathus. Yet, in moments of rage or desperation, people still turned to spells and dark magic. The road to Atlantis. Beneath the ocean waves, where the waters crash against the shores of Bimini in the Bahamas, a strange stone formation has divided scientists for over half a century. To many researchers, it is nothing more than a natural rock formation, but to believers in the legend, it is the road to Atlantis. In 1968, divers first discovered the line of stones lying nearly 6 meters below the surface. Before their eyes were massive rectangular limestone blocks, fitted tightly together like an ancient stone-paved road, or perhaps the remains of a harbor, or a wall shattered by time. The path stretches nearly 150 meters, before abruptly ending in a hook-shaped curve. 2 parallel rows of stones nearby make it resemble modern bike lanes branching off the main road. In the 1970s, scientists surveyed the area and concluded that the stones were actually beach rock, a type of rock formed under beach sand as seawater seeped in and precipitated minerals over thousands of years. As sea levels rose, the beach vanished, and erosion shaped the rock into formations that looked like a paved road. After that conclusion, mainstream research largely ceased. There were no wheel tracks, no architectural remnants, and no artifacts to confirm that Atlantis ever existed here. Yet geologist Robert M. Schoch disagreed. From his perspective, the Bimini Road has an artificial origin, perhaps the remains of a sunken city. The precision of the blocks and their arrangement convinced many independent researchers that they were placed in a deliberate pattern unlikely to be the random work of nature. Some scholars have even proposed bold theories linking this stone structure to lost ancient civilizations, or even intervention by extraterrestrial intelligence. To this day, the underwater road at Bimini remains an unsolved mystery, a pathway into the past whose destination still lies hidden beneath the deep blue sea. The fall of the Roman Republic. A volcanic eruption in Alaska, believed to have occurred in early 43 BCE, may have triggered a catastrophic climate event that contributed to the collapse of the Roman Republic. During 43 and 42 BCE, Europe and North Africa were suddenly gripped by unusually cold, prolonged, rainy weather. Temperatures dropped to their lowest levels in 2,500 years. Crops failed, famine spread, disease ran rampant, and Rome descended into chaos. The eruption came from Mount Okmok on Umnak Island. The blast was so massive that scientists believe it caused Mediterranean temperatures to fall by more than 13 degrees Fahrenheit for 2 consecutive years. Amid an already unstable political landscape, the cold and darkness acted like a final curse that drove the Roman people to the edge of fear. At the same time, Julius Caesar was assassinated by 40 Roman senators, marking the end of the Republic. The perfect number. Throughout the history of religious traditions across the world, the number 3 has appeared with remarkable frequency and is regarded as the most powerful of all numbers. Often called the perfect number, it is associated with the image of the divine triad, not only in Christianity, but also in many other religions and mythologies. In Christianity, this triad is the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, the concept of the Trinity, which was formally established at the Council of Nicaea in the year 325 AD, becoming a central foundation of faith. The origins of this triad are tied to various cultural streams. Some scholars, notably Elaine Pagels, have suggested that the idea of the divine triad was borrowed by the early Christians from Jewish tradition, where God was originally described as genderless before shifting toward a masculine identity in Christian theology. Over time, the notion of three in one sparked numerous debates, giving rise to misunderstandings and differing interpretations within the church itself. Beyond Christianity, the number 3 also holds a central place in Eastern religions. Buddhism describes the 3 bodies of the Buddha body: speech and mind, similar to how the Trinity expresses 3 aspects of divinity. Ancient Jewish Kabbalah speaks of the 3 first emanations from the divine source: nothingness, wisdom, and understanding, forming the basis of all existence. There is a theory suggesting that the Trinity is not merely about 3 separate entities, but symbolizes the unified process of creation itself. In this sense, the Trinity represents both creation and unity, a theme that appears across many religions around the world. Perhaps that is why the number 3 so often emerges as a symbol of balance, unity, and the mystery behind every act of creation. If you found these mysterious stories fascinating, leave your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you won't miss any of our upcoming discoveries. We'll see you in the next video.